Last time we explored what love means in the Bible, namely group attachment. That's very different than how Western people express love. Recall that American Bible readers get into trouble whenever they read about love and hate in the scriptures. For modern, introspective, individualistic Western believers, the words love and hate relate to internal psychological states. Invariably, they entail feeling, emotion, and affection. But ancient Mediterranean peoples like Israelites were anti-introspective. It follows that their love would be expressed accordingly, in an external, concrete way. Affection, emotion, and feeling may or may not have been involved with ancient Mediterranean love, but these internal states were not essential. Just as biblical love is this way, so also external, concrete expressions and outward behavior characterized biblical hate, the correlative of biblical or Mediterranean love. The Lucan Jesus says, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple." This is one of those so-called crazy verses that scandalizes Western Christians. Don't say that, Jesus. We need to love our family members. Well, first of all, Jesus is not commanding his followers to cultivate a negative emotion like disgust toward their kinfolk. He's not calling them to feel disgust, revulsion, animosity, feelings of violence, feelings of anger, and other related internal emotions. That's not it. Instead, Jesus is calling his followers to do something far more radical. They must detach themselves from their kinship group for the sake of Jesus and the gospel and join the Jesus movement. In other words, they must die to their group self and group conscience. Only then can these collectivists join the Jesus group self. It really was a kind of death and rebirth. Folks, unlike American Christians of whatever sort, our biblical ancestors in the faith were collectivistic dyadic personalities. Their group orientation necessarily facilitated an anti-introspective way of being. That means that these Mediterranean persons had little concerns for things psychological. What we Western people would call psychological states, they ascribed to spirits, good, wicked, and mischievous. And it follows that in such cultural arrangements, words we would refer to internal emotional states always connote for ancients a corresponding external expression as well. For example, the word in Hebrew, to know, always involves some kind of experience of the object known. You see it in Genesis with Adam and Eve. The man went into his wife and knew her. To covet always involved the attempt to take what one desired. That's why we should probably translate the Hebrew and Greek words to covet as to steal. Two words nearly always assigned to internal states in our society are love and hate. But to understand what they meant in the first century Mediterranean world, the cultural world of the Bible, it is necessary to understand their group orientation. Since biblical love is best translated as group attachment, attachment to some person in the group, correspondingly, hate would have to mean disattachment, non-attachment, and indifference. Again, could there also be feelings of repulsion? Maybe, perhaps, but those are not necessary as far as biblical hate goes. The inward feeling that is necessary would be non-attachment, along with the essential outward behavior bound up with not being attached to a group and the persons that are part of that group. This is what biblical hate entails. Examples of biblical hate include one being negatively disposed toward, or one betraying another, or someone growing cold in love, that is to say, indifferent. Or, as the author we know as Luke states, Jesus' followers will be hated by all because of my name, which basically means they will be shunned, avoided, expelled. Since to hate in the biblical or Mediterranean sense is the same thing as to disattach oneself from a group, one can describe departure from one's family for the sake of Jesus and his gospel as hating one's father, mother, wife, children, etc. Or leaving everything, or more precisely, leaving one's house. The depth of detachment required of a Mediterranean first century follower of Jesus is expressed in the varying reports of Peter's dialogue with Jesus. In the gospel called Matthew and the gospel called Mark, Peter says, "We have left everything to follow you." The author called Luke specifies what Peter means by everything. "Lo, we have left our homes and followed you." Because a Mediterranean person's very life depended upon loyalty and attachment to the family, to leave home and kin is to leave your group self, to leave everything meaningful to life behind. It is to risk oblivion.